The conference room smelled faintly of lemon polish and fear, though only one of us knew it. I sat across from Marjorie Thompson, head of operations, her smile just a little too sharp as she slid a manila folder toward me. Beside her, Denise from HR wore that mask of corporate regret I'd seen too many times in my career. Kira, after 15 years with TechVantage, we're restructuring your position, Marjorie said, her voice carrying the faintest note of satisfaction. She thought she was the executioner. What she didn't realize was that I'd already seen this blade coming weeks before it swung. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. At 55, I'd grown used to the way this industry devoured women my age, chewing through decades of expertise, only to spit us out for cheaper, younger replacements. So instead of clutching that folder as though my life were inside it, I accepted it calmly, even politely. I completely understand, I told them, watching the relief flash across their faces. They'd expected me to beg. They'd wanted me to break. But I had spent years building an armor of silence, and more importantly, I had already crafted my escape route. 15 years of loyalty meant nothing to them. But I had learned not to place blind loyalty in return. A misdirected email thread a month ago had warned me of their plans meetings about a new direction, notes about consolidating my division under younger leadership strategy slides that erased my name from the very algorithm I had created. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't even surprised. I had only felt the cold confirmation of a betrayal I had long suspected. The irony was that the very code they were erasing me from had been born from my restless nights, my stubborn brilliance, my refusal to give up on an idea that no one else believed in. That distributed processing algorithm, the backbone of TechVantage's flagship product, had carried them into industry dominance. And yet when the CEO, Victor Lawson, presented it at conferences, I was nothing more than one of our research team members. No name, no credit, just a ghost in the machinery. So when they asked me to return my keycard, my laptop, my phone, I smiled. I walked the sterile hallways one last time, my heels echoing like a drumbeat of endings. My team's 6 brilliant engineers I had personally mentored looked at me with wide, uncertain eyes. They didn't know yet that I had already secured their future alongside mine. They didn't know that while Victor and Marjorie conspired to erase me, I had been carefully filing, documenting, and protecting the one thing they couldn't touch: my mind, and the refinements to the algorithm I had developed on my own time. That evening, I met Gregory Sullivan, CEO of Precision Systems, TechVantage's fiercest competitor. In the dim light of a private alcove at Meridian, the weight of the last 24 hours fell away as he slid a folder across the table. "They actually did it," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. "They cut the one person who built their core." His words weren't flattery. They were fact. I sipped my water steady. "Victor never understood what I actually created," I replied. "He only saw what he could market, not what truly powered it." 3 months earlier, when I discovered that TechVantage's legal team had failed to file the patent application for my algorithm, I hadn't panicked. I had investigated. What I uncovered was a strategy memo outlining their plan: erase my name, secure the patent, and push me out. They underestimated me. They didn't know that while they schemed, I was already refining my design on my own equipment off company hours. Improvements that boosted efficiency by 43%, improvements that I filed under my own name. Last month, the patent had been granted. And now, with Greg's help, Precision Systems held the licensing rights. In one signature, I secured not just my survival, but my vindication. A 7-figure bonus, equity, royalties, a title Chief Innovation Officer, and offers ready for my team, each with raises and recognition. I lifted my pen, scrawled my name, and in that moment, I wasn't the discarded, aging woman they believed me to be. I was the architect of their downfall. When I walked out of TechVantage's glass headquarters for the final time that Friday, cardboard box in hand, I paused to glance up at the top floor where Victor and his board often met. They were probably already congratulating themselves for a clean execution, sipping expensive scotch while planning my replacement. I smiled. In less than 72 hours, that same room would be the site of an emergency meeting. Their empire was about to tremble, and I would no longer be a nameless ghost in their machine. Monday dawned with a clarity that felt almost poetic. I slipped into a charcoal gray suit I had purchased specifically for this moment, a power suit for a power shift. At precisely 7:30 a.m., a black town car from Precision Systems pulled up to take me to their headquarters. As the city blurred past my window, I thought about the 15 years I had given TechVantage, the countless nights I stayed late, debugging the ideas I had poured into whiteboards that others erased and claimed. Today, none of that was wasted. Today, it was vindicated. By the time I reached my new corner office, the press release had already gone live. Precision Systems acquires exclusive rights to revolutionary processing algorithm, welcomes creator, Dr. Kira Jennings as Chief Innovation Officer. My name not hidden in the fine print, but emblazoned in bold headlines. My work no longer an anonymous cog in a corporate machine, but acknowledged as the breakthrough that it was. The announcement spread like wildfire through the industry. By 9:00 a.m., newsletters and tech journals were buzzing. By 9:15, my phone lit up with a frantic message from Miguel, my lead developer at TechVantage. Complete chaos here. What did you do? I smiled as I typed back, check your personal email. Offers are waiting for you and the rest of the team. Meanwhile, just 8 miles away, the boardroom at TechVantage had erupted into pandemonium. Victor had walked into what he thought would be a normal Monday meeting, only to find the general counsel and CFO waiting with panic in their eyes. The moment they saw the press release, alarms went off. Their flagship product, AccountSphere, the software that generated over 40% of their revenue, relied entirely on my algorithm. Without licensing rights, they were standing on quicksand. By 10:45, an email from Victor appeared in my inbox, the desperation bleeding through every line. Kira, there seems to be a misunderstanding. Please call me at your earliest convenience so we can discuss. I didn't even hesitate. I forwarded it directly to Precision's legal team. For once, his voice would not command me. His words would not diminish me. His pleas would be handled like any other legal matter, cold, professional, and at arm's length. By noon, TechVantage's stock had already dropped 7%. Precision's had risen 12%. Analysts called it a strategic coup. Journalists were requesting interviews. And while Victor's empire quaked, I walked into my first meeting at Precision Systems, greeted not as a silent bystander, but as the leader I always had been. That afternoon, Miguel texted me again. Board just called an emergency session. Victor looks like he's about to explode. P.S. My team and I accept your offer. When can we start? My heart swelled with quiet pride. These 6 engineers who had trusted me, who had built alongside me in the shadows, would now step into the light with me. We weren't just leaving TechVantage behind, we were building something new, something unshakable. Meanwhile, rumors swirled from the inside. At an all-hands meeting, Victor had tried to feign confidence, insisting they would vigorously defend their proprietary technology. But whispers of doubt had already infected the room. Some employees were updating their LinkedIn profiles mid-meeting. Others dared to ask the question out loud. Had the company failed to secure the patent? The silence that followed had reportedly left Marjorie pale and trembling. By Wednesday, the fallout was undeniable. Major clients were already calling Precision Systems, fearful that TechVantage couldn't maintain their software. 2 had begun negotiations to switch providers. Industry headlines screamed, "Can TechVantage survive the algorithm crisis?" and how one strategic oversight shook a tech giant. That same day, I received a call from Denise in HR. The same Denise who had slid my severance papers across the table with mechanical efficiency. Her voice, once so curt, was now cautious, almost pleading. "Kira," she began, "we believe there may have been a misunderstanding about ownership rights to the patent. Victor was hoping you might consider a meeting to discuss options." I let her finish before replying, calm and steady. "There's no misunderstanding. My employment agreement is clear. Anything developed on my own time with my own resources belongs to me. And now any discussion will need to go through Precision Systems' legal department. I'm sure they'd be happy to set up a meeting." The silence on her end was thick, heavy. Finally, a resigned sigh. "I'll pass that along." I hung up, not with triumph, but with something deeper, recognition. For the first time in years, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't replaceable. I wasn't expendable. I was exactly what they never admitted. I was the architect of their success, and now the architect of their reckoning. By Friday, exactly 1 week after I carried my box of belongings out of Tech Vantage, the company was in full crisis mode. Their stock had fallen 23% in just 5 days. Investors were restless, calling emergency meetings. Industry analysts were writing speculative articles with titles like "The Algorithm Crisis Can Tech Vantage Survive?" and "How One Strategic Blunder May Cost a Tech Giant Everything." I read each headline with a strange mix of disbelief and vindication. For years, I had been told I was lucky to have a seat at the table. Now, the very table was collapsing without me. Miguel kept feeding me updates, his texts like a live news ticker. "They're interviewing new developers. Victor says they'll rebuild in 6 months." I laughed aloud when I read it. The original algorithm had taken me 3 years to perfect, and that was with every sleepless night, every ounce of focus, every intimate knowledge of its flaws and strengths. 6 months was the kind of desperate lie you tell to calm a room full of panicked investors, not a feasible timeline. Miguel agreed. No one believes him, and the team's resignation letter went public today. Knowledge drain is massive. That afternoon, TechVantage's lawyers finally reached out to Precision Systems to begin licensing negotiations. Greg and our legal team were ready. The terms we sent back were deliberately fair but strategically punishing 3 times the standard industry rate, plus a public acknowledgement of my role as the inventor. Greg smirked when he slid the draft across my desk. "They'll choke more on the acknowledgement than the cost. Victor's ego won't allow it." I leaned back, unbothered. "Then they can try to rebuild. And every day they waste chasing my shadow is another day we extend our lead." The following Monday, just 10 days after my dismissal, I walked into a bright conference room at Precision Systems surrounded by my new team, Miguel and the 5 other engineers who had once been mine at TechVantage. The energy in the room was electric. Ideas bounced across the table like sparks. Plans for the next evolution of the algorithm filled the whiteboard. Anita, one of the brightest young women I'd ever mentored, leaned back with a sigh. "This is how meetings should feel," she said. "Not half our time wasted explaining basics to execs who never listened anyway." I smiled, my chest tight with something I hadn't felt in years: belonging. "Here," I told her, "your expertise is recognized. That's the difference." Just as the session wrapped, my assistant appeared at the door. "Dr. Jennings, there's been a development. TechVantage's board just announced a leadership change. Victor Lawson is stepping down effective immediately." The words rippled through the room. For a moment, silence. Then a wave of quiet satisfaction. It wasn't gloating, it was relief. The empire that had dismissed me so easily was finally paying the price of its arrogance. Hours later, industry reports confirmed that Victor wasn't alone. Marjorie, the woman who delivered my dismissal with that tight little smile, was out too. The head of legal had resigned, scapegoated for failing to secure the patent. And in Victor's place, an interim CEO had been named Richard Donovan. That evening, as I reviewed my notes in my new office, an email pinged my inbox. It was from Richard. The tone was everything Victor's had not been: measured, respectful, professional. "Dr. Jennings, congratulations on your new position. I have been brought in to help TechVantage navigate this crisis. We would like to discuss a fair licensing arrangement for your patented technology. We are prepared to acknowledge your contributions publicly and make amends for the oversights of previous management. Would you be available to meet next week?" I forwarded it to Greg with 2 words: Phase 1. His reply came almost instantly, beautifully executed. "The board is celebrating your first major victory." For the first time in years, I allowed myself to exhale. This wasn't just about money or even recognition. It was about rewriting the story they tried to write for me. I wasn't the aging woman quietly escorted out of relevance. I was the innovator, the architect, the survivor, and now finally the one whose name could not be erased. 3 months after walking out of TechVantage for the last time, I stood backstage at the National Technology Innovation Conference waiting to deliver the keynote address. The lights beyond the curtain glowed like a promise, and for the first time in decades, I felt the weight of recognition settle on my shoulders instead of slipping away to someone else. Last year, I had sat quietly in the back row at this very event, while Victor Lawson paraded my algorithm across the stage as if he had birthed it himself. He had called it TechVantage's proudest breakthrough, never once speaking my name. But today, the program introduced me as Dr. Kira Jennings, Chief Innovation Officer at Precision Systems and creator of the revolutionary distributed processing algorithm. The applause that greeted me was thunderous, but it wasn't just noise, it was justice. I stepped to the podium steady and unshaken and looked out at a sea of faces: investors, engineers, journalists, students with notebooks clutched tightly in hopeful hands. They weren't here for Victor. They were here for me. Today I began. I want to talk about ownership, about what it means to create and what it costs when creation is dismissed as disposable. My voice didn't waver. I wove technical insights with something more human, more vulnerable, the way erasure cuts deeper than failure, the way betrayal leaves wounds no algorithm can process. I didn't name TechVantage, but everyone knew. And as I spoke, I saw heads nodding, pens scratching faster, eyes widening as if my story was theirs too. When the session ended, a line of young women engineers formed to speak with me. One barely 30 leaned close and whispered, "Your story changed how I document my work. I keep logs now on my own time with my own equipment. I won't let them take it from me." I smiled, a fierce pride swelling in me. "That's smart," I told her. "Your innovations deserve protection. And so do you." That evening, as I sipped champagne at the reception, my phone buzzed with an alert. TechVantage had finally signed a licensing deal with Precision Systems. The announcement named me directly as the inventor of the algorithm. Their stock steadied, but at a fraction of its former value. They were surviving, but they would never be the same. I read the headline again and again, not out of gloating, but out of quiet disbelief. For so long I had been invisible. Now my name was permanent, carved into the history of the very industry that once treated me as replaceable. A year to the day after Marjorie slid that severance folder across the table, I sat in my spacious office at Precision Systems reviewing a quarterly report. 3 new products, all built on my algorithm, had launched successfully, seizing market share from TechVantage and others. My team, my true team, thrived beside me. Their innovations were celebrated. Their voices, amplified, their names, credited. We had built something new together, something stronger than the place we left behind. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Greg stepped in carrying a chilled bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. "Happy anniversary," he said warmly. "The board asked me to share the news with you personally. Precision Systems has officially surpassed TechVantage in market valuation for the first time." I laughed softly, not with triumph, but with release. "That's what happens when you value innovation properly," I said. He poured the champagne, and I lifted my glass with him. The golden light of late afternoon streamed through my office windows, painting everything in a glow that felt like a promise kept. An assistant appeared with a sleek envelope, an invitation to deliver the keynote at the Women in Technology Leadership Summit. The topic they had assigned me: owning your intellectual value. How proper documentation changed an industry. Greg glanced at it, then back at me with a smile. "You've become something of an icon, you know. The story of the executive who didn't recognize what she had until it was gone. It's already a cautionary tale in boardrooms everywhere." I thought of Victor, of Marjorie, of the smirk on their faces as they dismissed me. I thought of the countless times my voice was drowned out, my work minimized, my worth questioned. And then I thought of this moment, my name, my face, my story no longer hidden in shadows, but standing tall in the light. I raised my glass higher. It was never about revenge, I said. It was about recognition, about showing the world that innovation isn't anonymous. It comes from real people who deserve real credit. Greg clinked his glass against mine. "To recognition," he echoed. As the sun dipped lower, I let myself feel the satisfaction, not loud, not vengeful, but steady and profound. At 56, after decades of being erased, I was finally seen. My name would live on with the algorithm that changed everything, exactly where it belonged. If my story resonates with you, If you've ever felt invisible, dismissed, or betrayed, I hope you take this to heart. Your worth is not defined by those who fail to see it. Protect your work, protect yourself, and never let anyone make you believe you are replaceable. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe, and tell me your own story in the comments. I want to hear how you fought for recognition, how you found your strength. Because together we remind each other, betrayal may wound us, but it can also ignite the fire that carries us forward.